Good morning, YouTube. Okay, we're the start of week 11. Obviously, we ended last week on a bit of a sort of downer because I was really disappointed that the nice fat rock sliders just didn't really work. So this morning, Chris has taken Priscilla's rock sliders off, which are smaller, and we just trial fitted that. It's dirty and all the rest of it, because we kind of need to have this step. We're going to have a roll bar, a part of the roll cage to get into the car, and having a step out here is really useful. Now, much as I have thought for a long time that these are too small, they actually look a lot better. So I think we're going to go down the route of putting these on, and then Priscilla gets the fatty ones that she's always wanted. She doesn't know that, but she does. So we've got a few things to get on with this week. Obviously, we've got Christmas in the middle of it. I've asked for some questions for things that you want to know about the project, about what we're doing, about the event. So we'll answer those later in the video. For now, let's crack on. We've also put a scabby old wing bit on to Purdey this morning, just so that I can really check that that seating position is right, because it gives me a reference for where the front of the car is. It does look, she's starting to look a bit like a noddy car with all these colours this morning, but don't worry, she won't look like that when she's finished. On the subject of the wing, and it's not this one one is going to be Purdey's original wing, but as you remember, the wing on the other side was completely knackered. So over the weekend, I managed to source another wing in the UK on eBay. So it's another genuine second-hand part. That will be delivered to my mum and dad. Oh, better tell them about that, hadn't I? Over sort of between Christmas and New Year. So it will be ready for us to collect when we go back to the UK. So that's good news, and it's another little problem solved. In fact, it wasn't solved. The wing was delivered early to Mum and Dad's. Dad thankfully unwrapped it, and it's in shocking condition. Really damaged. We think not through transport, but through inept removal. So we're rejecting that, and it's going back, and we're on the lookout for another wing. So Chris is just using some aluminium angle bracket to strengthen the bottom of this tub. You might remember that when we found it, it had been sitting in a field and the bottom of the panels were a bit bent. So by putting a piece of angle in there, it will strengthen everything up and keep it straight. This is the aluminium angle that we're using just to strengthen the bottom of those tub sides, bought from our local hardware store. I just had to come up the field with Delilah to catch the sunset because it's so spectacular tonight. Colours are really gorgeous. Walk round. Look at that, just lovely. A proper end of year winter sunset. Look at the reflection in the water. Wow. Just fitting these wiggly little brake pipes that we got, if you remember, in the order from Paddock Spares last week, just to finish off the front axle. I think we've got to just put the pads in after that.
Yep, and I've got the tabs to bend.
Yeah, and the tabs to bend on the end of the drive shafts. And what is that attached to?
A piece of pipe that runs right the way across there, down there, and along there, around there, that I've had to take off.
Ah, right, yeah, I remember that piece. But we've taken that off in case safety devices have to lift the body off. Just getting a little bit of lube on the back of these brake pads to stop them squeaking before we put them in.
Use a very tiny bit.
I never knew that.
Don't have to. Don't want to put too much in, otherwise it goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Kit. There's 4 springs there, honest.
They're all stuck together, aren't they?
Pliers. Want it tight. Yeah, it's got to slide around. That'll be a lot tighter when we've got some brake fluid in.
So that's literally just a split pin to keep that in.
Yep.
Okay, so we've just done the lock tab up on the end of this axle and now refitting this end bit. I've forgotten what it's called in French. It's a main menus, but I don't know what that's called in English. Putting a gasket into that from Eurospare. This little rubber cap that goes over the end of the drive shaft. I must have lost so many of them in the desert. As it's Christmas Eve, we thought we'd pimp Purdey up with some fancy flashing lights. I mean, everybody else is pimping their Land Rover up with flashing lights. It's just that Purdey doesn't move. Just looking at the parts to sort the other front brake out. So we've got the little bracket that sits on the top. That's a genuine part, which I'm pretty sure came from Eurospare. We've got this little wiggly brake pipe that came the other day from Paddock, the flexible brake pipe, and some Eurospare nuts to keep it all together. From Project Purdey and the Gazelles off-road team, we'd like to wish you a really happy Christmas. So just as we leave the workshop today, just checking in with the board, 123 days to Santana, 373 to Dakar Classic, but it's actually 10 days today until Dakar 2025 starts, so we can't wait to watch that. Stress is now low because we're having a day off tomorrow because it's Christmas, and weather is cold and a bit really. So what did you want to say, Ellie? Happy Christmas! For this video, we asked you to send us your questions, and the most common question is, what happened to the goat? The honest answer is, I don't know what happened to the goat. It wasn't our goat. The goat came and the goat left. And we hope that the goat's okay. But as it's Christmas, I've got a special treat for you. So I'm just going to do a little compilation of all the goat clips. Enjoy!
You may remember when we put all the suspension on, we didn't tighten it all up until we'd got some more weight on the car. And obviously now the body's on, that can all be tightened up and checked. This is a second-hand heater box, is that what it is?
Yeah, I suppose so.
It's kind of the lower part of the dash. You remember the thing that we put the big strange-shaped seal in that we had to cut down? Well, that kind of fits onto here. And then the heat is distributed out through the bottom, and then the top of it is the bit where there's like in a Defender there's like a little shelf. Anyway, we're going to try and use this so that we can distribute our heat in Purdey, because as you know, don't like being cold, and try and repurpose it as the sort of basis of our new dashboard. Apparently Minty wants to make sure that we're going to be nice and warm. She's coming to help. So just to show you the box that we're dealing with, it's basically this section here. This is where the hot air comes out of. It either comes down onto your feet or up there. We probably don't need this section. It doesn't really do anything. And then it fits all the way underneath. And the little shelf is just below the terror trip. So what's this bit you've just taken out? Is that the inner heater flaps?
Yep.
There you go. There's something that people don't normally see.
Does it need to come to me at all or not?
I can't see how it fixes though.
I can't at the moment.
So, having tried that box along here, it was a great idea, but we don't think it's going to work because it just takes up such a lot of space. However, we do still need some heat, so we're kind of thinking on a new plan, which Chris is going to explain now.
Well, just using plumbing fittings, 32
On camera. So we're thinking like some kind of plate on here with basically tubes coming out, the kind of thing that Chris has got in his hand, so that some of it can come down onto your feet, and a bit that runs across, because I'm sitting in Marcella's side at the moment, to my feet. And then we need to have a demister on the screen as well. The trouble is there's no manual for this. This is literally, we're having to work it out as we go along, because we've now strayed so far from what's kind of normal for a Land Rover build, and we're having to make it up as we go along. So we'll keep you posted. Now we've got this second-hand bumper. Again, original, genuine Land Rover part, recycled, to go on the front of Purdey. And we think that what we're going to do is actually put it on, assuming it'll fit, because it will protect the front of her when we take her back to the UK. Some big bolts that are going to go down through these holes to hold it all together. Then she's really starting to look like a car, isn't she? So these bolts aren't actually quite long enough, as it turns out, and getting the nuts on the bottom through that little hole is going to be fun, but that's what we've got to do. Another little job that we have to do before Purdey goes back to the UK, because these flaps really need to be fitted, so they just need a little bit of rubbing down and prep. Just trying to make use of our time by getting on with other little jobs, and one of them is changing the oil in the gearbox and putting some oil into the transfer box. There we go. That's Purdey's lifeblood draining out, but don't worry girl, we're going to give you some nice new oil. Oh,
bit of fur.
That's quite a lot of fur. So what we're going to put back into Purdey's gearbox is this oil from our lovely partners at Exol, the multi-gear 75W80. Now, some of you may know that an R380 gearbox should have MTF 94 oil in, but this is a compatible oil which we've used in the other cars, so we know that it's going to do a good job. So you don't normally see this from this angle. We're looking at the gearbox from the inside of the car, and that hole that Chris is pointing to is the fill hole for the gearbox. You've seen this process before, filling up this massive syringe and squirting it in. We thought that as we can get to that fill hole from the top, as the tunnel's not fixed on, you might as well do it from here, and then it saves you getting covered in oil. That's much better, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm wearing wireless.
The next is to fill the transfer box, and for that we've got another Exol product. It's actually the same oil as we put into the axles, oh gosh, several episodes ago. So that's another Athena product, and this one is 75W90. Unfortunately, we can't get this to this one from inside the car. Amongst the other questions been asked what the biggest challenge is that we face, and is it more difficult being a female team in a male-dominated sport? Okay, the biggest challenge that we face, and this is the same for all of our rallies, is getting to the start line. And that's on many levels. So this time we've obviously had to build a new car. We're in the process of building a new car. And the reason for that is because of all the FIA stuff that we have to comply with. There's also this time an awful lot more equipment that we need that's different for Dakar Classic. But the main thing that makes it a challenge is getting the funding in place. It's no secret that motorsport is expensive and Dakar Classic is super expensive. We're doing not too badly on our budget. We've got about 40% of the funding that we need, but we still have a long way to go, and it really is important that we get some more support for that. We have a backup plan, and the backup plan is selling the cars that are sitting outside, and that's not really what I would like to do in an ideal world. Does it make it more difficult that we're women? I think, to be honest, these days funding for motorsport is difficult, full stop. With all the stuff going on in the media about how bad internal combustion engines are, it makes it difficult for those of us who are competing. Yes, it is more difficult because we're women. I think as well, being British women, the Dakar and endurance rallying generally is not so well known in the UK.
So on many levels, we're kind of fighting an uphill battle. The other thing is that we're not just women, we're older women. And I think the young girls probably get more traction than we do. So yeah, I guess it does make it more difficult. I think anybody competing in a sport that's extreme and an endurance sport finds it difficult to get funding. So that is our major problem, our major challenge. And if we make it to the start line, we'll be super, super happy. We will make it to the start line. I'm not going to say if, we will make it to the start line. We will do whatever it takes to get us there. Okay, we're at the end of the week. Obviously, we've had Christmas, and I hope you've all had a great Christmas. I hope you've enjoyed watching this week's video. We've got some more questions that I haven't answered in this week, so we'll save them for next week because it's also going to be a slow week with New Year. You know the drill. If you've liked the video, please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. By the time you get the next video, we'll be into 2025. So today, I'd just like to say cheers to 2024. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you soon.